Kehinde Andrews is a professor of black studies at Birmingham City University here in the UK and joins us now for more on this. Thank you very much indeed, Professor Andrews, for joining us today. So let's just step back a bit and think back to how this all started, really. It was the stabbing of these three young girls in Southport near Liverpool, and misinformation. It sort of spread very quickly, and the speed and the breadth of this far-right violence has been shocking to witness. But is in some ways it unsurprising, given the poisonous rhetoric around immigration and race that has been stoked by many right-wing politicians here for years?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the important context. And it's not just right-wing politicians. I point out that Keir Starmer's Labour Party has just as much said we need to stop immigration, stop the boats. And this really goes to a much longer trend that goes back to 1919 in Cardiff and Liverpool, 958 in Nine Hill, 2001. You had race riots in Bradford and Oldham, where the resentment bubbles up from white populations who are told that the reason that the problems, that they don't have jobs and they don't have houses and that people are getting attacked in the streets is because of immigration. But that comes from politicians and it comes from the right-wing press.
And how big a problem is white extremist right-wing ideology in this country, and how much responsibility lies with the failure of previous administrations to take it seriously? There have been warnings of growing extremism and more sophisticated online incitement and disinformation methods. You know, the former counter-extremism advisor today saying that the previous three prime ministers did nothing when she warned that this was a growing threat.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, we tend to criminalise black and brown people. So when you think extremism, terrorism, there's a heavy focus on Muslim communities and actually a massive under-focus on a much bigger threat, which is white extremism. But there's a more important problem, which actually is this is not even extreme anymore. The rhetoric that's coming out from, in the 70s, would say National Front, has now been mainstream. The fact you have Nigel Farage in Parliament on the TV, you just mentioned him, he is a figure from the far right, which has now become mainstream. And that's the much bigger problem. These ideas are now not extreme at all. They're right in the centre of discourse in this country.
And do social media companies need to be held more responsible for this kind of content?
I think the thing, look, it's easy to blame social media companies, but this isn't about social media. As I said before, this has happened since there have been black and brown people in this country, since 1919. This has happened. It would have happened without social media. This is actually a problem for politicians, a problem for the media, it's a problem for all of us. It's a much bigger problem than just to say, well, can you shut this down on Twitter and misinformation? Misinformation will spread no matter what. The real problem is actually where we are as a country politically, and to be honest, we're so far right now that we wouldn't even recognise this 20, 30 years ago. And that goes just as much to Keir Starmer and the Labour Party as it does to the Tories.
Well, thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us today, Kehinde Andrews from Birmingham City University. Thank you very much indeed.